You know, there are already two big reasons to like Gawain. Two very big, very large, obvious reasons. Their plot twist and their personality.
What reasons were you thinking of?
Thank you to our final patrons, Sinus Lancelot, Artgoon, and Praise the Sun. And a big thank you to our $25 patron, the Mr. Greed. Now, before we head into this first impressions video on Gawain, the final night of the apocalypse, please do leave your own thoughts on the Gawain in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, make sure to hit that little notification bell so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Any support would be appreciated. Now, let's get into the first impressions. What's up, guys? I love the pencil here, and here we are to talk about my first impressions of Gawain, the final night of the apocalypse. And honestly, so far, after one chapter and a trick for a few chapters, I actually really like Gawain. Notably, I think Gawain works as the final knight for a myriad of reasons. I think the first one is just their different appearance relative to the rest of the knights. I don't just mean what I was talking about in the intro. Her personality and her twist, but also just like the general twist she puts on them, mainly because she's not a legacy character, technically, because she's not anyone's kid, at least any of the previous Sin's kids. And at the same time, she's not a completely out of nowhere character like Percival is, because totally Percival is random. Like no one, I didn't expect him. I don't think Nakubo expected him at first, because remember, Tristan was supposed to be our MC. I don't think anyone expected Percival. So he's a complete rando. He has his own unique narrative tied entirely separate from Camelot, from everything. Well, he's tied into Camelot. That's the thing. He's tied into Camelot, which was essentially a background kingdom of a background kingdom in the last series. Now, with this being on the forefront, Percival's a complete random. Lancelot is the son of Bon and Elaine. So obviously we know his parents. We have expectations to live up to. And at the same time, with Tristan, his parent is the main character of the last series and the main girl of the last series. So obviously, we have some expectations for him too. But Gawain comes right out of nowhere with that little intermediate niche spot, because we know what Gawain's power comes from, but we don't know how, we don't have any context of Gawain themselves, both as in their lineage and their character. So Nakubo was essentially free to do whatever he wanted, completely. Like, he could have just made Gawain anything and anyone, and he legitimately did, and we can't really say anything, because Arthur's bloodline, being the only hypothetical tie we have to the previous series, doesn't guarantee anything. And on top of that, a reincarnation or next wielder of sunshine doesn't mean much either. Look at Mael and look at Escanor and tell me how many similarities there are, other than they're both bad with women. So I think Nakubo having that free reign is really good, and Gawain having that free reign is also really good, because it allows the character to be whatever is most interesting in Nakubo's eyes. And I think that's always fun. I like it when authors are allowed to just like go nuts, and this is one of the rare times when they're allowed to go nuts within like a general constraint. And I think the next thing I want to leap into, though I will make an entire video on it, is how they're going to use Sunshine. So far, from what little we've seen of them, they're using Sunshine in a very interesting way, in a much more pinpointed way in comparison to their predecessors. Gawain has much more finesse with their abilities, as they declare. I keep calling them they, but I think they're she, right? Like, two big reasons why, but still, like, I think it makes sense. So the reasons, she's wielding sun in a much more pinpointed fashion. Note the tiny fireball that she created at the front of her fingertip was not a cruel sun. It was not a greatest sun. She hasn't flexed her aura or anything, and notably, despite it being probably sometime around midday, she's not melting anything. So in terms of the raw power and control she has, it's very akin to Mael, and notably, because we've literally just met her and we have no context of what her mutation is or how her body works, it seems like she's a whole lot more Mael than she is Escanor. And that's very interesting to see that her power is a lot more unaffecting so far. Like, we don't see her burning up or anything. We don't see any mutation. She seems to be casual with it. As she says, she is the master of the sun. And getting a character with mastery over their abilities works well, mainly because I think what Nakubo's going for there is the balance. It seems like Lance, but even then, Lance has abilities yet to be unseen. So really, every single one of our cast still has abilities that we need to explore. But it seems like Gawain, due to the fact that she has an inherited ability, Nakubo's allowed to just be like, I bet, boom, and just slap on the table, like, this is going to be the most complete character. And I have to say, flat out the gate, she rocked the world pretty darn quickly in a multitude of ways. But I think the control over her power, that finesse there, is what's it grabbed my attention the most, mainly just because of how chaotic we knew Escanor's power was, even when he supposedly had it under control. Man, still underwent a whole personality shift. These things happen. So to see Gawain in absolute control, we like that. We respect that. We respect the hustle. Now, the next thing to talk about is Gawain's character. And honestly, on the first read through of the chapter, shout out to the Patreon, by the way. If you want to get my like raw immediate reaction thoughts on there, I haven't posted it yet. I started recording this video because it's been very busy, but I'm going to post it. I really like how, I don't know, it's a mixed thing, right? Because ironically enough, they remind me of Meliodas in terms of some of their hands-on approach. However, at the same time, they are even more than Lancelot was. Lancelot was cool. Gawain is suave. And that's a fine line you gotta walk. That's a fine line you gotta walk. But I appreciate that. I don't know. Gawain feels like the first character of that ilk that doesn't like mind manipulate you. Like the only other time I thought of someone this suave in some of these sins was Gother with Gila, but he actually just mind hacks her. So that one doesn't count. But in terms of just well usage of words, the way they act, the way they carry themselves, Gawain not only seems confident, maybe a little bit too confident, but at the same time, overall is just a character that with what, a couple pages of lines and one confident appearance already gives off like, yeah, they're gonna be a very important like stability member for the group early on. Like I say, Lance and Gawain are going to be carrying like the serious, headstrong, like leading the group kind of thing early on in the narrative, while Percival and Tristan are still developing the leaders themselves. I'm not saying Tristan hasn't shown that he can be a competent leader, and I'm not saying that Percival hasn't, well, kinda, but like I'm not saying that Percival isn't a competent leader either. However, just based off their natural controls of the situations, I see Lancelot and Gawain both being leaders. And to follow up of that, I'm pretty sure in Arthurian mythology those two do have a rivalry. So I wouldn't be shocked if those two were like constantly butting heads, because they both have that leader archetype power behind them, or like not just the leader archetype power, but that presence behind them. They both seem like people who would want to be in control. Very similar to Anne, but unlike Anne, it feels like Gawain and it feels like Lance have been in positions of power. And thusly, when these two go to meet, I see them butting heads a lot. And I think that's actually going to be a very interesting dynamic. Speaking of dynamics, you know, it seems like Gawain likes women. And I completely agree with Gawain. Women are W. So honestly, I'm wrong with that. I know that I've been reading the comments. I see there's some hesitancy about that. I know people are trying to write it off, but like me, personally, I'm not gonna say she got good taste. Tall women, me and Gawain on the same kind of timing. So I'm respecting of that. And the interesting thing is, like that already gives Gawain a dynamic with two of the knights. The whole leadership and power dynamic is going to be a whole thing with Lancelot. I can already see it. I can already smell it. They have a rivalry in ancient mythology. It's going to be a thing. But we know that Tristan's already rocking on Isol, and Gawain is already rocking on Isol. So I like that. I'm not gonna lie. It's a weird thing, but I will admit, I'm a fan of good romance if it's written well. So most tenderly since romance, no. But if it's written well, I like it. So I literally wouldn't even mind. You want to have a little sub-love triangle there? I wouldn't even mind. You wouldn't hear me complain. So I do like that part about Gawain already too. Like the suaveness is obviously one of the major points I pointed out. They're all throughout the review that dropped yesterday. So me, I let it ride. You know what I'm saying? Like I appreciate it. And also just W representation from Nakaba. The dude's weird. I'm not gonna lie. Like Nakaba, love you, man. But like. It's just like it's like four Knights of the Apocalypse as a whole. Like in one page you'll have happy-go-lucky Percival singing and running along with his friends, full of hope, and then you'll have like Arthur torturing one of his own men live on screen, and then you'll have like basic boring like background or worse entire character arc written interactions around love, and then you just have a character that we're meeting for the first time and hearing speak for the first time pull up spit game and nearly pull like like with Nakaba, you get one extreme or the other. Either you get King and Diane, which is the entire narrative up to the point of the very, very end, and even bleeds into Cursed by Light, and or you get Gawain, who opened up around the start and said, hey yo, trying to get to know you, baby girl. Like, I kind of rock with it. I don't know. I really enjoy that. It's an interesting way to take the character, and it's a great way to make her seem more mature immediately. Like, obviously, we are running around with a cast full of 16-year-olds, and in the context of our modern society, I think there are very few of us who actually consider that age an adult. But in that time, technically, our whole main cast legally is adults. So, I guess, like, it's weird to think about, but our main cast is adults. And so far, most of them have been pretty immature, but I feel like Gawain and Lancelot will take that lead. However, those are really just my quick first impressions. Obviously, I don't have much to go off of. We've only seen them in full for one whole page. We've seen their powers in action for a page and a panel, and we've had very little interaction with them outside of them being a heavy flirt. And while I do rock with that, I don't have much to say about that. So, really, really good so far. I like the character. I'm excited to see what they do in 2 weeks. I really want to see them, like, I do want to see the Knights jump Pelgard. Like, I'm definitely hoping Lancelot, Tristan, and Gawain all show up to back up Percival. But at the same time, like, if Gawain were to run the ones with Pelgard, the sun versus the flame, ooh, that'd be heat. However, those are my first impressions on Gawain so far. Please tell me your thoughts. Whoa, I guess it is your thoughts. Your thoughts and impressions in the comments section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Nat with a Pencil, writing off.